What's up, Wildside besties and baddies? I'm Bailey.
And I'm Chelsea, and we're here to walk you through the wild sides.
From homicides to hosticides and everything in between.
We're so glad you're here, so buckle up
and enjoy the ride. What's up?
We're still in hot spooky season.
Hot spooky season. Well, luckily for you, I'm going to present a case that is dark and cold like death.
Oh my.
And so that'll cool you down.
Oh my. Oh no.
Listen, we don't have time for anything except to jump straight into this case.
All right.
Let me tell y'all, I want y'all to give me lots of validation and lots of love because this case has taken me so long to put together. This is, in fact, the deepest, curviest rabbit hole I have ever fallen into. I have sat at my computer for, literally not kidding, 7 to 10 days trying to figure out how to put this case together. Couldn't figure it out. I was just like, I can't do this. There is no way I can put this case together. There's too much. It's too big. It's too broad. I don't know anything about this lifestyle, and I'm having an aneurysm just thinking about it. Okay. It is so complex, and it's got so many moving pieces and players. I knew nothing about this stuff, and so I've had to do a deep dive for my hardcore metal fans out there. Y'all, she's shaking her head.
Hey, that's our kin.
I know, because wasn't his cousin part of Pantera?
Yeah, his cousins were Pantera. Like, they were the two brothers that started Pantera.
Yeah.
But he wasn't allowed to listen to them.
Right, because this is the devil's playground.
It's the devil, Bobby. The devil.
With that all being said, Chelsea, don on your black and white corpse paint. We're diving into Norwegian black metal.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Have you heard about any of this stuff?
No, but I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is like, all I can see are the singers from Rammstein. Is that how you say their name? Rammstein?
Rammstein, yeah.
Like the German metal band that Du hast.
Yeah.
Or whatever it's called. That's the only thing I can think of.
When I tell you that I'm outside of my comfort zone on this whole case, So if you guys are metalheads, just know that I am doing my best to fly my freak metal flag for y'all, having known nothing about metal. Did you know there's categories of metal? There's like thrash metal and death metal. And so this is murder, suicide, church burnings, the craziness of Norwegian black metal.
Okay. What's going on in Norway? Are they just cold?
Okay?
Are they cold and cloudy? It's just cold and cloudy up there. They don't have a lot of vitamin D. It's a vitamin D deficiency, which can lead to depression.
Surely that's what it is.
Norwegian black metal.
Yeah.
Vitamin D deficiency.
So this might turn into a really long one episode. It might end up being a two-parter, you guys. It depends on how quickly Chelsea and I can get through 15 pages that I whittled down from 28.
Good job.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So this starts in 1984. And in 1984, there was a black metal storm a-brewing in Oslo, Norway. Black metal band Mayhem had emerged from the metal shadows. Now listen, as a disclaimer, the Norwegian names are real hard to pronounce. I'll do my best, but I'm going to call them by their aliases for most of it. So it was formed by guitarist Eystein Orseth, also known as Euronymous, bassist Jorn Stuberud, called Necrobutcher.
Nice.
and drummer Seattle Mannheim. So these were the individuals that made up this band Mayhem.
So we have Necrobutcher and Euronymous?
Euronymous. Yes. And that is Greek for demon.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. Euronymous invented the typical Norwegian black metal riff, and this is where it all starts. Influenced by pioneering death metal bands like Morbid Angel and Death, Norwegian bands sought to carve out a very distinct identity. Here comes the second wave. The second wave of black metal embraced themes of darkness and evil, which contrasted sharply with the gore and violence of death metal.
Okay.
Euronymous was the founder, central figure. He's going to be central to this case. And he was a central figure for the black metal scene and arguably where the snowball of this craziness happens.
Mm-hmm.
So Euronymous was from Oslo, Norway, which is a pristine town with relatively little to no murder or violence.
Yeah, I was going to say his mother loved to knit and sing hymns in her free time.
Yes.
I knew it.
It was a pretty idyllic place to grow up, especially in the 70s and 80s. Euronymous, however, was a part of a group of kids who wanted to separate themselves from mainstream death metal. They wanted to be feared. They wanted to be the darkest, baddest forces in underground metal music that the world had ever seen.
Okay.
All right?
Everybody's got to have goals, I guess.
This was their goals. To do this, Mayhem bought the cheapest, shittiest amps and mics they could, donned what's called corpse paint, and just started jamming it. And corpse paint is you literally paint yourself to make yourself look like a corpse. So it's all black. I mean, all white, black around the eyes, maybe like around the corners of the mouth, but you're supposed to look like a corpse.
So how I look on most days, just living life.
Yes.
Just real white with like dark circles.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they, like I said, they bought the cheapest amps and mics. Everything was what they call lo-fi. And so it was just like really shitty production. Like that is a staple with black metal, especially the second wave black metal music.
Okay.
What completed this was Euronymous introduced tremolo riffs into the songs, and tremolo being a form of strumming down and plucking the upper part of the strings to create a wall of sound. And with this, really Norwegian black metal was born. So he kind of created this new riff, this new sound that was to separate them from the other metal bands. So I watched I can't tell you how many YouTube videos, how much shit I have watched and read for this stuff. And I was like, I don't even know the difference. What is death metal, black metal? Isn't it all the same? Thank goodness I didn't say that out loud because I would have been stoned where I stood. Okay.
Yes.
Death metal apparently is like it's the growling, super low, angry, smashing guitars.
Mm-hmm.
Black metal is angry, sad. It's very forlorn, and it's very like, I'm all by myself in the woods in Norway and nobody loves me and nobody wants me and I'm still angry at the world.
So like your early college diaries.
Yeah, right. But it's still screamed. It's still screaming.
Okay.
So black metal, again, is more cold and dark. It contains messages of Satan, death, and murder.
Okay.
A major part of this genre is the performance. Crucifixion, pyrotechnics, rotten blood, real animal heads on spikes are a few of the things that you might expect to see. And those are a few of my favorite things.
So is it like Ozzy Osbourne, like biting the head off of the bat, like all that jazz? Is it kind of in that same vein?
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think Ozzy is black metal. Okay.
No, probably not.
So they would throw pig and sheep heads into audiences when they'd perform.
Oh, I'd be so pissed. I'd be so mad if I got knocked upside the head by a dead sheep head. I'd be so mad at Lucas because Lucas would be the one who took me to one of these stupid things, and I would be raving.
Zach just told me that Ozzy was heavy metal, so let's not upset our metal friends out there.
Heavens to Betsy. Heavens to Betsy.
So looking at this from a distance, you can see that it's actually quite lonely and cold music, sad emotions and undertones being twisted into raging screams and metal riffs, okay? It reflects the feelings that you might get from being lost in the snowy, lonely wilderness of Norway. Chelsea's doing a vulgar thing that we can't say what it is. Anyways, Euronymous' band Mayhem quickly made a name for themselves in the underground scene, attracting a cult-like following with their debut album, Death Crush. The band in its early years saw some quick changes to their members, and there's a lot of members changing throughout this whole thing. I'm not putting a lot of emphasis on that because I literally was in freeze mode and it took everything for me to even get through this, okay? So first they had Eirik Norheim, known as Messiah, followed by Sven Erik Christensen, known as Maniac. So a big thing with these bands is they all go by these aliases, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that.
Have you ever played laser tag?
Yes.
And you have to like pick your laser tag name.
Yeah.
I feel like I am in a really bad junior high laser tag game. And it's like,
yeah,
we got monkey brains on stage right.
And
we got
Skull Crusher comes out to the center.
Skull Crusher. We got Bone Whisperer. Like, oh my goodness.
It is a whole thing. It's a whole thing. As they embraced a colder, more atmospheric style, bands such as Mayhem, Dark Throne, and Immortal drew inspiration from Norway's bleak landscapes. Now, I just want to point out that these people who are creating this black metal are from, like, I think Norway is like number 3 out of the best country in the entire world to live in.
That's what I was just thinking. I was like, they're probably like pretentious suburb kids.
Literally every YouTube video uses the word pretentious, like spoiled kids who are just like, it's not a phase, mom.
Those are the vibes that I'm getting right now.
Their lyrics often delved into paganism, Norse mythology, and a very clear disdain for Christianity, setting the stage for a new wave of extreme music. And so everywhere you look, when you look up black metal, everything is like extreme, extreme, extreme. I mean, they are on the outliers of this bell-shaped curve for sure.
Right.
The early Norwegian black metal scene emerged as a countercultural movement that sought to reject not only mainstream music, but like everything else, modern society, Christianity, anything that these guys saw as the destruction of Norway's ancient pagan heritage. Right?
Right.
Norway had been predominantly Christian for centuries, but for the young black metal musicians and fans, Christianity symbolized the erasure of their pre-Christian Viking roots. Okay. Are you following? Like,
I'm absolutely following. Like, I can see this? I can see these kids.
Yeah.
Like, I've had conversations with these kids.
I did too, except mine all grew up to be accountants. The rejection of Christianity was not merely symbolic. Leading figures within the black metal scene expressed vehement anti-Christian beliefs, and this would eventually lead into what we will talk a little bit later on with church burnings. Okay?
All right. Slippery slope, my friend. Slippery slope.
Now, this kind of transitions into another main Focus, another member of Mayhem's group. And one of the young members of this was an up and rising 18-year-old Swedish gentleman by the name Per Ohlin, but he went by his alias as Dead.
Cool. This entire episode, I'm going to be thinking to myself, cool story, bird turd.
Yeah. It was reported that Dead had a hard childhood and was severely bullied throughout most of his youth. Now, a couple of mixed reports. There was one incident, a really bad physical trauma incident that happened. They said it was from an ice skating accident, but Per or Dead's brother ended up saying that it was because of the bullying. But regardless, there was an incident where Dead's spleen ruptured and he was taken to the hospital. He ended up flatlining, being pronounced clinically dead before they were able to resuscitate him and find a heartbeat. And by all accounts, this near-death experience seemed to be the catalyst to a really significant, really severe, morbid fascination with death, hence his stage name of Dead.
I mean, I can see that. That tracks.
He soon developed a passion for heavy metal, drawing inspiration from bands like Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, and Venom. From this point on, Dead was absolutely hooked and locked into the up-and-coming black metal scene that was sweeping throughout Europe. In early 1986, Dead founded the Swedish death thrash metal band Morbid, with whom he recorded a demo tape called December Moon, which is actually a lovely title.
It is.
I'm sure it's like the devil's sacrifice under a full moon. You know what I mean?
I mean, hopefully, right? I think with that sort of title and that sort of genre, we would be disappointed if it was about like redemption and, harvesting.
And harvesting, yeah. Well, Dad got to the point where he was starting to feel disappointed that the band wasn't going anywhere, and he decided that he needed to make a change.
Right.
He had heard of Norway's Mayhem. Mayhem was looking for a new lead singer, so Dad, Per Ohlin, decided that he was going to reach out to the band. And so one day, Necrobutcher received a package from Dead in the mail, and it contained his band Morbid, a demo of their songs, a letter containing his plans for his future,
and goat entrails.
And what?
And goat entrails.
Close. And a decomposing, possibly crucified rat.
Dude, I am really good at this. I could win on the black metal game show.
I think you missed your calling.
I know.
You are a Slytherin after all.
I know.
So he sends this package that has a dead, I say possibly crucified because some reports say crucified, some reports don't say that. And they're like,
to crucify something, don't you have to hang it from a cross? Like, so would he hang?
Chelsea? Yes.
You would hang this little rat from a cross?
He was dead. I'm sure he would. Okay. That's what they did. When I get into what they get into, you're not going to be surprised.
Okay. Proceed.
So the members of Mayhem listened to this demo and they knew that Dead was just what they needed. So they invited him to join the group. And Dead was like, hell yeah, fuck yeah, this is amazing. So in 1988, he moves from Sweden to Norway, where he replaced Maniac as the lead vocalist of their band Mayhem. However, it didn't take long for the band members of Mayhem to realize that Dead was truly an odd duck. He was obsessed with death and darkness. He would sleep with dead birds under his bed. He would kill cats and animals and bury his clothes in dirt for days before he would perform because he wanted to smell like and be connected with death.
Okay.
Okay. According to Stian Johansson, also known as the alias Occultus, um, he remarked that Dead did not even possess a normal perception of himself. He said, Dead didn't see himself as human. He saw himself as a creature from another world. He said he had many visions, that his blood was frozen in his veins, that he was dead. That is the reason he took that name. He knew he would die.
He knew he would die, as in, like, most people don't, but he was going to be one of the unfortunate few that did end up dying in this world.
So Dead had this kind of like super obsession with vampirism and Transylvania and this gothic fantasy of darkness and all of this stuff. There have been a couple of reports, kind of on a serious note, that they think a lot of experts surmise, I guess is the word, that Dead had Cotard syndrome. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-mm.
So it's apparently, or Cotard delusion, I should say, and it's a super rare condition. And I think it is marked specifically by the false belief that you or your body parts are dead, dying, or don't exist. It's synonymous with walking corpse syndrome or also nihilistic delusion.
Okay.
So a lot of people think he had that because he was not just like, oh, you know, like this is a phase, like a lot of the people in that kind of sub community, he was like into it and kind of all in.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as time passed, Dead's deteriorating mental state and obsession with death became more severe. He frequently would cut himself, self-harm in front of his friends, forcing them to intervene and tend to his injuries. While this was really concerning for his friends and his bandmates, Euronymous, on the other hand, appeared kind of fascinated and intrigued with Dead's death-like persona.
Yeah.
He felt like it aligned with what he perceived or wanted the band's like dark and nihilistic image to be. And Dead was like the center, like the poster child for this band that he wanted to develop, right?
Sure.
Dead's morbid persona, fascination with death, and violent stage tactics would add to Mayhem's dark reputation. So Dead was a huge pivotal moment for the band in creating this, like, paving the way for this really dark persona that is death metal, black metal, right?
Yeah. So kind of like, I know that I've asked you before, and I think you have said no, that you have not seen the movie Spinal Tap, which is just kind of like making fun of 80s rock bands. But in the movie Spinal Tap, they were like, we're going to make an amp, except most amps, they go up to like level 10. Our amp will go to level 11. And that was their thing, right? So it's like, we're going to take it to level 11. So Dead was taking them to level 11.
Take it to the limit one more time.
I bet that was not an influential artist for their music.
No. But Dead, again, just to put this in perspective, Dead was kind of the first one to wear corpse paint live at performances. So this band really, it was very influential for this very niche of music. He would do just wild, crazy stuff on stage. He would self-harm, like he would cut himself like in front of fans, like while they're performing. And there was one time that he had cut himself so badly that they were going to take him to the hospital. But he waited so long that they were pretty much like, you don't even need any stitches anymore because like you waited too long to come here. Right? Like he was very unstable. And it makes me sad from a therapist perspective because this was more than just like, oh, I'm in a rock band or, a metal band. And this is, like my thing. Like this, I mean, I think that was his daily dose of demons every day. Right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is destructive behavior.
Yeah. They
This
would
is
have
not a
like,
gig.
no, not for dead, it wasn't. So they would use decaying animal carcasses as props, and they would just continue to push the boundaries of shock value in music and performance.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of going back to the necro paint, the corpse paint, according to Necrobutcher, he was saying like it wasn't anything like the way Kiss or Alice Cooper used to do makeup.
Mm-hmm.
Dead literally wanted to look like a corpse. He didn't do it to look cool. He did it to personify him as the Walking Dead, right?
Right.
And, just to kind of top it off, he would bury his clothes, his stage clothes, into the ground so they would start to rot. And then he would pull them out and then perform on stage in his corpse paint. Now, tragically, this whole persona of death and darkness and Satanism and all this stuff really started to take a tragic turn. And this was maybe the first domino to fall for the rest of this case. And so, big trigger warning, this is going to have to do with suicide. In April of 1991, Mayhem would be thrust into popularity by a very tragic event. On April 8th of that year, Dead, who struggled with depression most of his life, ended up committing suicide in his home that he shared with Euronymous and other band members. Euronymous had been out of town, and when he came to the house, he didn't have a key, so he had to climb through a window, and that's where he found dead in his bed.
Mm-hmm.
There was a suicide note, and I'm going to read what he wrote just to kind of really give you an insight into the inner workings of his brain. And it said, "Excuse the blood, but I have slit my wrists and neck. It was the intention that I would die in the woods so that it would take a few days before I was possibly found. I belong in the woods and have always done so. No one will understand the reason for this anyway. To give some semblance of an explanation, I'm not a human. This is just a dream, and soon I will wake. It was too cold, and the blood kept clotting, plus the new knife is too dull. If I don't succeed dying to the knife, I will blow all of the shit out of my skull. Yet I do not know. I left all my lyrics by Let the Good Times Roll, plus the rest of the money. Whoever finds it gets the fucking thing. As a last salutation, may I present life eternal. Do whatever you want with it. Pele." I didn't come up with this now, but 17 years ago. And that was his suicide note that was translated to English from Swedish.
That's interesting. It's almost giving like the Matrix vibes, right? Where it's like, this is not my reality. Yeah. I am like in some, matrix, for lack of a better word.
Yeah,
that's
and
interesting.
Some of the documentaries, when you interview like Necrobutcher or Hellhammer, they would, I can't remember which one, but he had said like, I was a pretty happy guy. Like I liked life despite kind of being into this black metal music. Mm-hmm. And he was like in it. And when I first met Pere, that's what they would call him, Pele, or Dad, he was like, it made me angry because he was just so severely depressed, like all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like significantly clinically just super depressed.
Right.
And so Euronymous was the one who found him. But before calling the police, Euronymous went to a shop, bought a disposable camera with which he photographed the body after rearranging some items, so the gun and the knife. Necrobutcher recalls how Euronymous had told him of the suicide. He called him up and said, Dead has done something really cool. He killed himself. And Necrobutcher remembers thinking like, have you lost it? Like, what do you mean cool? And Euronymous says, relax, I have photos of everything. And Necrobutcher said, he was in shock. He was grieving. And he was like, don't even fucking call me before you destroy those pictures, basically, right? Mm. And Euronymous was like, yeah, no problem. But he did not. Instead, one of the photographs that he took of Dead's body was later used as the cover of a bootleg live album of Mayhem's The Dawn of the Black Hearts album.
See, that's what I was wondering if you were going in that direction. Like if he was going to use it as like a banner at their, shows, or like essentially to exploit him in order to get more fanfare.
Yeah. So I didn't look up this picture, but in the documentary that I watched, and I'll link it in the show notes, they show it. And I just wasn't expecting it because it's before I think they started censoring that stuff. And it's everything. It's everything you don't want to see another human being in that position as. And it's really awful. And literally there are CDs somewhere with that as its cover art. Everything. I mean, his skull is gone. His brains have poured out. It is really, really awful. I don't encourage anybody to take a look at it. It's not my favorite. But yeah, he took a picture and posted it on their music cover album.
And this is where I stand on, like, I think a little bit of censorship is appropriate, where people are like, there should be no censoring of free speech and stuff like that. I'm like, I think there are certain things that should be censored.
Yeah.
Just period, end of story.
Yeah. And I think it was no surprise, and I know you're not going to be surprised to hear this, but Euronymous absolutely exploited Dead's suicide to enhance Mayhem's sinister reputation, right? Claiming that Dead took his life because black metal music had become trendy and overly commercialized. And he used it to kind of say, like, this is hardcore stuff. This is not, posers can't be a part of this. Like, this is how important it is for us to stay, underground, even though, as you'll hear later on, Euronymous absolutely wanted to be bigger and badder than life, right?
Well, absolutely. They all want to sell out, even if they don't admit to it.
Right. There were also rumors circulated that Euronymous used parts of Dead's skull to like make stew from his brains and necklaces from his skull fragments. The band denied the brain rumor, but they did later admit that there were in fact necklaces made from parts of Dead and likely his skull.
That's just disturbing.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, and like there's an article in 2018 that part of his skull was sold for like $4,000.
No,
isn't that terrible?
That's the exploitation of it is just it's sickening to me. Like, what people will do for a buck is just hard.
So this act, right? This taking a picture of Dead's body, putting it as their cover art on an album that they released, taking bits of his skull, making jewelry out of it, it absolutely cemented Euronymous' controversial and nihilistic persona. And so Dead's death profoundly affected the band, naturally. Necrobutcher ended up leaving shortly after, and Mayhem's lineup continued to shift. But because of Euronymous' actions around Dead's suicide, he now had a martyr to exploit, right? Just like we were saying, for the sake of fame and glory. And so because of this, because of Euronymous' talent in this regard, absolutely catapulted them into the public eye, making them a symbol of the extreme metal scene's like dangerous allure. Is this not the craziest thing so far?
Well, what I kind of keep thinking as well, this kind of aligns with, you talk about satanic panic of the 80s and I'm assuming early 90s in the US. But it sounds to me that this satanic panic, in a sense, was international, or at least had influences outside of the United States, which is something that I didn't realize. Like, I didn't realize that this was popping up internationally.
Like all over.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize this was kind of a global phenomenon. Or
Well,
at
it's
least...
funny that you say that because you'll see another instance of how that really kind of becomes insidious in this case.
Mhm.
And so Euronymous, again, the kind of leader of Mayhem, he was oftentimes considered the godfather of black metal. And around 1991, he ended up opening up a record shop in Oslo called Helveti, which is Norwegian for hell. I mean, how original. Okay. And so this quickly becomes like the mecca of black metal music, and Euronymous was at the very center of it.
Mhm.
So Helvete was where all of the black metal main players would hang out, and it was the focal point. So black metal bands, along with Mayhem, you had Burzum and Emperor closely associated with the shop. And these individuals formed a group called the Black Circle.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not the pink circle or the tight circle, the black circle. I'm surprised they didn't call it like the circle of death, right?
I literally was thinking that. You said it, but you were thinking
You were
it.
thinking it. And so you had Hellhammer, Euronymous, Necrobutcher, others. In 1992, individual Bard Goldvik Eithen, but he went by Faust. His alias was Faust. He moved to Oslo and started working in the record shop, and because he had been pen pals with Euronymous for several years. And due to Euronymous' connections, because part of him opening the shop and why he was kind of like the godfather is he was like the ultimate networker within the black metal community. And so this kid who came to work for him in a shop, he ended up getting him a connection with the band Emperor. And so Faust became their drummer that same year, part of this like inner Norwegian underground black metal inner circle.
Do you know what my black metal band name would be?
What?
Pocket Full of Posies.
Yeah, that is pretty dark.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. And they'd call you Pop?
Yeah. Yeah, I sure would. Sure would. And I'd have like
Pop?
dead flowers.
Dead flowers all
Dead
around
flowers
you.
all around me.
Like, it's to keep the bubonic plague like you posers away from me.
That's right. I would have deep symbolism in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this Black Circle, small group of black metal bands, and they consider themselves to be the authentic forces, thank you very much, behind the black metal, unlike posers who only wanted glory of associating with black metal.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
These guys were the hardcore ones seeking to be the darkest, hardest G's Norway has ever seen.
Don't know. I'm still... What year did Chernobyl melt? It was like late 70s. I still think
like 86 or something.
86 was Chernobyl.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, well, I am still holding true to I blame a lot of this wild behavior on air pollution that was a result of Chernobyl's nuclear meltdown.
You might be onto something there.
Because this is just wild. And I think there's the common link there. I think it's air pollution from Chernobyl.
Yeah, it might be. Chelsea, you might be onto something. The elephant's foot had a far reach.
Hashtag true.
So this inner circle promoted Satanism, anti-Christianity, and Norwegian paganism. Now, as cool as Black Circle sounds, it was more or less the group of guys who hung out at this, Helveti's basement, drinking, playing Dungeons and Dragons, and expressing how repressed they were and how metal music isn't heavy anymore. It's too mainstream. And also, PSS, Christianity sucks and everybody should be pagan.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds super original, actually. It sounds like every, religious reform that's happened
ever.
like forever. But you're right. You are onto something new there, kid.
Yeah. And so Euronymous also launched Death Like Silence Productions. And so they released albums from key black metal bands. So essentially, he was like the gatekeeper to this scene. Are you following so far?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. If you wanted to do black metal, you had to go through Euronymous.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
They would hang out, talk shit, make it the place the center of a dark and scary hub, like the image they wanted to present. So the basement was filled with darkness and animal skulls and pentagrams of the sort. And here at Helveti, Euronymous helped mentor younger bands, especially like Emperor and Enslaved, and nurtured a man named Varg Vikernes. I'll get to it. Vikernes of Burzum. I'll get there. Okay. Euronymous propagated mysticism around black metal, mainly out of his shop. In one interview, he stated, "I believe in a horned devil, a personified Satan. In my opinion, all other forms of Satanism are bullshit. Satanism comes from religious Christianity, and there it shall stay. I'm a religious person, and I will fight those who misuse his name. People are not supposed to believe in themselves and be individualists. They are supposed to obey and be slaves of religion."
What? Hashtag, huh?
Excuse me? Baking soda?
Excuse me? Baking powder? I don't know. Okay.
Euronymous said that the term black metal can apply to any kind of metal so long as it is satanic and heavy. He said if a band cultivates and worships Satan, then it's simple, it's black metal. And that in a way, it can be ordinary heavy metal or just noise. But what's important is that it's satanic. That's what makes it black metal. He began this mentality now that black metal is a community of zealous Satanists and supporters rather than a simple genre of music. So that's where he really started to make it extreme. It was a lifestyle. He lamented the commercialization and loss of extremity within death metal. He said, I'm so sorry. He said, real black metal should be something normal people are afraid of, not something mothers can listen to.
Okay.
So, like, if your mom's listening to it, then it's not black metal enough, right?
It's not black metal enough.
It's for brutal people who are capable of killing. It's not for idiotic children who want to have a funny hobby after school. Even though, like, literally hashtag, they were all like kids, idiotic children who had a hobby of like shitty music recorded in basements after school.
I know that you are not a fan of Will Ferrell, but this sounds like a Will Ferrell movie. This sounds just like a spinoff from like Step Brothers or something.
Oh man. So where we're at, dead suicide and Euronymous' actions following it profoundly affected the band, affected Necrobutcher, prompting him to leave, which now reduced the band to 2 members. After some trial and error with other bands and members, in late 1992, Burzum's Varg Vikernes, I'm not pronouncing that right. I'm going to call him Varg. His stage name, sorry. His stage name was Count Grishnackh, which literally was an orc's name in Lord of the Rings. So when I say like these kids sat around in a basement and like played Dungeons and Dragons and wanted to be like Lord of the Rings characters, they're like, but we're black metal and we're all Satanists and it's like we're so hardcore. So Varg ends up joining Mayhem. His introduction into the band arguably was another super tragic twist in this tale. You see, Varg was a young, hardcore black metal member of the inner circle who arguably thought that Euronymous was too much of a poser. He thought the godfather of black metal was a poser.
Oh, no.
That Euronymous was all bark and no bite, and when it came to what black metal was supposed to represent.
I have a feeling that we're going to get into like a Dr. Dre, Missy Misdemeanor Elliott, like Uranium, what's his name? Eutangium?
Euronymous?
Euronymous?
Euronymous, yeah.
Euronymous is about to he's about to drop one of those like comeback tracks where he's like, F y'all, all of y'all, if y'all don't like me, blow me.
Yeah.
Y'all gonna keep standing up to me and take me back to the old me.
Yeah, like this is what's about to happen.
Like Dr. Dre.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can cut out my rapping, but
no, it's absolutely staying. This is extreme music, by the way, Chelsea.
Yeah.
You were so extreme just now.
I know. That was real good.
So primarily around this whole all bark and no bite, what Varg liked, didn't like, was primarily around the anti-Christian sentiment. Like I said, many black metal musicians saw Christianity and the Christian church as an oppressive force that has erased Norway's ancient pagan traditions. This belief was especially strong in individuals like Varg, okay?
Yeah.
But Varg was the type of dude, and I just got to paint a picture for this dude, okay? He was the type of dude that when a McDonald's opened up in their town, the first McDonald's in like 1991 or 1992, he and his asshole friends would go with shotguns and shoot out the windows because they're just like, you know, mainstream Americanism is taking over the world. And they'd stockpile guns and prepare for what they thought would be an inevitable World War III.
What? Because of McDonald's?
Yeah, because it's like American influence. He doesn't like Americans in the United States because he feels like they're taking over.
But he's going to adopt like get inspiration from American metal bands.
Well, that's why they were trying to peel away from it.
Oh, sorry. They had like seen the errors of their old ways.
Yeah. Okay. And I gotta say, when I watch interviews with Varg, he makes me irrationally angry. And I get the same feeling with cult leaders. When I watch any cult leader, I get the exact same emotion, and he makes me irrationally, instantaneously angry when he opens his mouth.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to send you a clip, and you just watch 5 minutes of him, and you're gonna be like, no.
I wonder if they're borderline. I wonder if that makes you so triggered.
No, I mean, he seems like narcissistic, but I love working with narcissistic clients. So there's something, right? There's a whole something around it. Makes me irrationally angry.
Yeah.
So this dude's whack. He's just whack.
Maybe his life trap is entitlement.
I'm sure it is. Yes, 100%. And so he began to publicly challenge Euronymous, right? And his, are you going to put your money where your mouth is? Like, that's what Varg started to do.
Yes.
And he wanted to take action more than just Euronymous's big talk about needing to challenge Christianity in anything mainstream.
It's Tupac versus Biggie.
It was.
It's a tale as old as time,
right? Varg believed that more needed to be done to rebel against the cultural norms of Norway and the oppression of ancient Norwegian ways of life. Black metal musicians wanted to shock society and distance themselves from mainstream culture, which they viewed as conformist and weak.
Sure. I mean, absolutely.
He believes in his interviews that Christianity is the root of all problems in the world, in the modern world, because he's like, what do they always do? They burn everything. They burn cultures, they burn records when they take over all of these places. So he turned his sights to Fantoft Stav Church. It was a church that was built in the 12th century, and it was built above a burned down pagan holy site when it was built.
Oh, that's like insult to injury.
Insult to injury. This church was built on top of this location. On the hole, on the pagan hole, they put a stone cross. The Christians put their stone cross.
Yeah.
No respect for Norwegian culture. And it was time, boys, to take back Norwegian's land and history and to shock and open everyone's eyes to the brainwashing ways of Christianity in his homeland of Norway.
Okay. Right.
So Varg is a big fella, right? Big ideas.
Yeah.
Big motivations, big problems, right?
Yeah.
1992 would prove to be the beginning of the infamous legacy that black metal would leave behind, and with Varg Vikernes taking the lead, along with a trail of destruction and murder.
Oh, Varg. Come on, Varg. You need to stay within your black circle.
Yeah, you need to stay within your fucking salt circle.
Like, seriously, like, stay in your lane, but obviously you're not going to do that. You're just going to take it to level 11.
Yeah. And this is where we might have to leave this for part 1.
Oh, this is very twisty like a pretzel.
Did I not tell you? Chelsea, I'm on page like 11 of 16.
This is very twisty like a pretzel.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. So, yeah, stick around, you guys. We're going to tie it up for the next one. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us through this wild and crazy ride.
That's right. And we'll catch you on the wild side.
Bye, guys.
Later, Gators. Hey, Wildside Tribe, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Wildside Podcast.
Make sure to tune in on Wildside Wednesdays. New episodes will drop each Wednesday at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
We would love to hear from you, so if you have a wild case recommendation, email us at wildsidepodcast@gmail.com. That's wildside with a C. Or share your thoughts in the comments below. As always, if you haven't heard it today, you're loved, you're worthy, and you're valuable. And we'll catch you on the flip side.